make a decision and for us then to comment on the decision when we already know the direction we think we'd like them to go.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion from the board on this item?
Yeah, the only thing is, it's not an issue that will come to this committee. So I think the idea is it's community input, and that's great, but I'm almost certain that this item will not come to this committee.
Yeah,
And it's like direction
good
to us
point,
as
John.
members of the.
This is maybe our only chance to weigh in.
Right, and it's direction to Gordon and Greg and myself, which is helpful.
Very quick.
Yeah, PB Sushi is on the corner there. What are their hours? If they open at 11:30 or noon, you want to make sure that they have access to it, because that's gonna block, and it's gonna be noise. They're gonna be running their motor while they're.
Yeah, but if it's only 5 to 9.
Yeah,
It gets us out of the way
Yeah.
before it gets busy.
yeah.
Okay, so there are motions and seconded, so all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Anything else from the Park Advisory District?
Yes, I have yesterday.
Last night's meeting?
Yesterday's meeting. We had a meeting yesterday, our monthly meeting. One of the items was the La Jolla Chapel on Cass Street. They needed some 15-minute parking slots.
Well, it's handicap parking.
Yeah. So we agreed on those 2 slots that they would like to have. Another thing we talked about was, why don't we have any money? Well, we found out last night that Discover PB that administers the program, they have to submit a purchase order. And they haven't gotten around to submitting that purchase order yet, so they can't get any money. Now, we're up to the end of the year, 2024 ends at the end of the month. So that money is gonna be gone. And John, you might want to help me on this one.
It's not gonna be gone, it's going to be, transferred to next year.
So long gone.
Yeah, but no expenses from this year, administrative or otherwise, can come out of that. It'll just go next year and be available.
Keep in mind, next year is July 1st.
Yes,
Fiscal
next
year.
fiscal year, yes.
All right.
Is there any way we can find out how much the parking meters are making or not making?
That's
Yeah, we'll have-
115, right?
Yeah,
This is
We'll have a
another thing
report
we
next month.
talked about in the meeting, is we're trying to get more information, like how much is the shuttle making, you know, how much are we bringing in and all that stuff. So they didn't have anything like that for us at this time, but they're gonna get that for us, so we can see how the money's coming in, or how the money's being spent.
Okay. All right, thank you, Gordon. Okay,
Excuse me, can I just?
very quickly.
Yeah, there was a very important thing at the meeting that I was at last night. I'm on the parking board. And there was a report from from a series of PD pathways, ad hoc committee meetings. And they made a series of kind of questions or possible solutions. And they're to be brought to all the community groups, including this group, for everyone to discuss and make comment on. So I think that'd probably be the Streets and Sidewalks Committee. But they're waiting for this group to comment on that whole list of proposals.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Okay, now move over to the CIP committee, because we're going to try to keep things on time. So I'll keep it brief, just to keep us on track. So a certain gentleman over at the town council, his name, has told me that because next Wednesday, which would be the normal town council meeting time, is Juneteenth, which is a federal holiday, the town council meeting will be postponed to the Wednesday after, which is June 26th. Thanks to a very kind gentleman right here, Greg Denars, you gotta thank him. That meeting, which will be a normal town council general meeting, will also have a featured collaboration with the CIP committee for a idea generation workshop. So similar to last year's CIP major vote that happened in September, which we're looking to do again this year, there was a board at that event where you could post your own idea that wasn't on any of the posters. Well, this meeting will kind of address that and allow people from the community to present their ideas of what something they might think is something for the planning board to consider. After that, the 4 different core community groups of the Pacific Beach will meet to kind of go over that full list of everything proposed. We'll see if any of those items can be taken by each group that they might already be working on or that they might be working on in the future, just to try to refine the list down. Then the planning group in July will meet similar to what we did last year and go over that list. It will not be over 100 items like it was last time. It will be much more refined, so that way we can kind of give each item the attention that it deserves and hopefully end up with something that we can then take to the big major meeting that we have in September. So that's kind of my outline of what the CIP is going to be doing in the next few months. So June 26th will be the Town Council General Meeting, which will have the CIP workshop. That's basically the feature presentation activity. At some point, to be determined by the 4 groups, the planning group, Town Council, beautiful community, and discovery community will meet just to kind of try to refine this down, who could take things on. And then the next planning board meeting next month in July, which is, I think, July 10th, is when the board will look at that list and refine it down to then what we would take in September. We'll have an extra month of August as some breathing room, so in case something happens in July that we need to think about, we'll have a month to deliberate, whereas last time it was kind of all down in the home stretch. So that's kind of what we're looking at for CIP. So come to June 26th, it'll be here at the library, this Crown Point Junior Music Academy Center construction until September. Yeah, that's it for my report, which is just on time for 7:45 for Scott to give a report from the CDC.
Well, I hate to make us early, but I was out of town, so I didn't attend that meeting, so I'm sorry I don't have a report.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, that's more time than we can say. Okay, well, then that gets over to the moment everybody's really been waiting for, which is one of our featured kind of segments. So, the past few months, anybody familiar with our last few meetings, we've been talking about dog hours at Mission Bay Park. We heard from the community perspective from both sides of a proposal to make the dog hours 24/7 at Mission Bay Park. But tonight we're going to hear from some of our first responder perspective, specifically from our chief of the lifeguards, Chief Garland.
Thank you, guys. James Garland, lifeguard chief for the city of San Diego. I've been with the lifeguard division for 30 years. I am your 4th lifeguard chief for the city of San Diego. So it was brought to my attention that people are trying to change the municipal code for the dogs prohibited. So when I looked at it and evaluated it, I decided to kind of revisit some of the areas just to kind of really give it a good look. I think the initial conversation I had was to get rid of the dogs prohibited municipal code. That municipal code was put into place, I think, in 1952, and really it did not have many adjustments, maybe one in 64, but then it had a big adjustment in 1994. And then from then, since 94, for the past 30 years, it really has not been adjusted too much. They made some changes for service dogs and some dog licensing stuff. But we get a lot of complaints in the lifeguard division on dogs, both sides of it. Why aren't you enforcing more dogs? Can we have more time with dogs? The dog knocked me down. These dogs are, nobody's cleaning up from their dogs. So it generates a lot of work, the dogs prohibited muni code. But it does seem to work well. I would say through COVID, we were seeing more and more dogs, and we were having more and more traffic on the boardwalks. And that's where I come in, right? The safety concerns. So a dog on a leash, a big dog, a pit bull, a little dog, and then those massive crowds. It is a hazard, and it is challenging, and it is a safety issue. People cleaning up after their dogs is a health issue, and that's another issue that we see out on the beaches. But 6 o'clock is about right in Mission Beach for the summertime. Sometimes I do look at the boardwalk at Mission Beach or the crowds there and I go, oh man, that boardwalk is just so congested. So then it was brought to our attention that there was a proposal to change just in Mission Bay Park and change the hours from like 10 to 4 year round. But I think when you look at some of the areas in Mission Bay, you have that same congestion. So from South Mission Beach up past the Catamaran, Sail Bay, that area, if you guys have been on those boardwalks in that area, it's super congested. There's bikes, there's rollerbladers, and this is for not only for the safety of the people coming to the beach, but it's for the safety for the animal as well. You add a leash and a small dog or a big dog or dog interaction on a boardwalk with rollerbladers, bicyclists, it just gets extremely challenging and it does get dangerous. So the health and safety perspective, we're the ones who kind of pick up the pieces of all the accidents out on the beaches, out on the boardwalks. We also do the enforcement. So lifeguard observation opens up around 9 o'clock and when people are trained. So you could come out with me on a patrol at 9 a.m. and you will see as a lifeguard truck goes down the beach, people start heading east. With the addition of the rangers, you will see a ranger truck on the east side and people start pushing in between and they go into the areas. They go into the alleys, or they go into the sidewalks, and they move into those areas where they're allowed to walk their dog. That does seem to work. I think if you change the hours on Mission Bay and not at the beaches, you're going to create more confusion. People are going to push east onto the boardwalk, or they're going to push west, and it's extremely challenging to enforce. The dogs are challenging to enforce as it is. The law enforcement is a tertiary duty for the lifeguard division. Lifeguards' main objective is water safety. So you'll see, that's why the beach police team comes in the summertime, is if they're focusing on the law enforcement, we can focus on the water. And that's our goal, right? That's our number one goal, is safety at the beach. We don't want to issue tickets for compliance, we just want compliance, right? When a lifeguard issues a ticket, it takes up quite a bit of time, and what does that do? It takes those eyes off of the water and puts them on a citation. It puts another lifeguard officer there. You have to do contact and cover. So it is extremely challenging. I think it's been in place for 30 years. There is certainly some wisdom in that municipal code. It does seem to work. We get probably challenges on both sides of the issue, which sometimes, in my experience in public service, in public safety, is it works, right? It's just, it seems to work well. So that's my piece on that. I was asked to come in and present. I can answer any questions. That's really all I have. I am a dog lover. I have a dog. I was going to bring him tonight, but I did not bring him. But he's a very good boy, and yeah, there's 9 hours out of the day that I can't take him to the beach in the summertime, and there's 7 hours out of the winter that I can't take him to the beach. But there are places I can take him. Fiesta Island, that's a 5.2 mile loop all along the coast there. We get to a certain area and he can be off the leash and running around and going in the water. So when that city plan was developed, there were certainly areas put in place and there was quite a bit of wisdom in there. And that is my position on it, and that was my opinion. And thank you guys for the opportunity for coming in and speaking my piece. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. We'll do board questions. We'll save board comments. So just questions for the chief.
I would just like to remind us what we're debating, the hour change. Could we write that into the minutes?
Yes, so this is a continuation, so we tabled, there was a motion and it was approved to table this conversation, which is specifically in regards to the 24/7 change to
And what's the
dog hours.
restriction right now?
Currently, I think it's 2 different times of the year, it's seasonal, I believe it's 9 to 5 at some parts of the year, and then, yeah, you got it.
Yeah, April through October, it is 9 to 6 is dogs prohibited. And then October through March, it's 9 to 4.
What was the last one?
9 to 4.
9 to
So it's a 7-hour prohibition in the winter and a 9-hour in the summertime. And it has to do with just timing the light out.
So, the only motion made so far that passed is to table this conversation, so we're back here. There's the proposal for making the dog hours in Mission Bay Park 24/7, completely unrestricted, still leash. And there's also a proposal to adopt the other universal dog hours, which would be 10-4 year round. I think that was the proposal. So those are kind of floating out in the air. The board has still not voted on either one of those, and so based on the information tonight, the board will be making a vote on how to proceed. So we'll move over to John.
Yeah, I was wondering, what your experience is, if it's different at all between weekends and during the week.
Yeah, it's challenging to enforce alone. And once you, and I've heard from folks, they said, hey, well, it's so challenging right now, right? It's like, I don't know what month it is, what time it is, but you start adding those layers in there and it just gets worse and worse. And then what happens is they get challenged. And then so when a lifeguard issues a citation, that's not the end of it, right? You have to go to traffic court. And then you go to traffic court and there's a adjudicate there who will look at complex, confusing municipal codes and go, you guys are out of your mind. And then you don't get any convictions, you don't have, so you've just burned up all that man hour, you've taken lifeguards off of watching the water, and in the end, there's still no conviction, citation, and compliance. Now you have one less compliant person, right? They've gone through the experience, they've gone all the way there, now they just come down with their animal at any time.
Question for Debbie?
In your opinion, do you think it would be beneficial to have universal hours all year round instead of instead of having them longer in the summer? Do you think it'd be better to just have it all the same all year long as what you have in the winter?
I think like I said, I think there's certainly some wisdom in that municipal code, and I think they were trying to middle the light, right? So somebody can come home after work and still, they don't have to walk the dog in the dark, which I walk my dog in the dark all the time, but some people prefer not to, right? So I think that's what that is there for. And I would tell you, if you look at Mission Beach Boardwalk at 4 o'clock in the summertime, you don't want a pit bull, a poodle, you don't want animals with leashes on that boardwalk. That boardwalk is a heavily trafficked thoroughfare.
I don't think dogs belong on there at all, but I think a lot of people that were here were asking in regards to like Sail Bay or Mission Bay Park over on those walkways too.
Yeah, I think you look in front of the catamaran all the way to Sail Bay, that area, now that it's a complete loop on Mission Bay, I mean, people are using these boardwalks quite frequently and quite quickly, and there's a lot of activity, there's a lot going on in those areas, certainly in the middle of the day in the summertime, right? And there's a reason summer coexists with the school schedule. I mean, you see it, the day school lets out, our beaches are packed, and it does not go away until school goes back in session.
Okay. Any comments from the board here?
Yeah, so I'm hearing, it sounds like because there are different rules, then you need to spend time enforcing that. And I'm kind of wondering, like, the more time that we have lifeguards enforcing rules that maybe are fine, that's like kind of like a waste of time. Maybe that could be spent on better things that are more important to look at. I'm just thinking, like, dog owners should probably know that, like, the boardwalk at noon is like just a bad time to like take the dog down that way. And I'm just wondering if it's like worth your time. So there's a sign in regulations, and I just want to get kind of your thoughts on like sort of like the relative impact on your role. There's like no alcohol, no glass containers, no smoking, no littering, no noise disturbings, no campfires, and no like camping on the beach. So where would you like kind of put the dogs relative to like those other threats?
So I think it's all worth our time, And it's part of our job. Our number one focus, aquatic safety certainly. And it's not just lifeguards doing this enforcement. You have PD, you have the rangers, and a lot of times in the mornings you have the locals, right? And you have people like, hey, can't have your dog here. There is a sect of the population, and I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to speak to it too much, but there's a sect out there that just waits for where there's no dogs, right? There's people that are afraid of animals. But where does it fall? They're all super important. Yes, glass is very important. Somebody getting bit by a dog is a traumatic experience. That is important as well. Fire pits on the beach, extremely important, right? People can get burned from that. It's a health and safety thing. So we call them 6-packs. I think there's 7 or 8 of them now. Those signs that are out there, they used to be called 6-packs back in the 90s, before the alcohol ban, I think. But they're all important. They're well placed. I think there's definitely sign, white noise as far as the sign goes sometimes in certain areas in the city, certain areas of the beach, but those are effective. You come to the beach, it's at almost every foot thoroughfare or where you're gonna get onto the beach, you will see that sign. It spells out all the rules. If you're a rule follower, those signs are super helpful, I think. But our enforcement of all of those things, we want people to come to the beach, have a safe, enjoyable time, and go home safe, right? I mean, that's what we're looking for. That's what those rules are there for. And they work, right? And until they don't, right? The fire, people used to be able to bring their own fire pit until somebody commercialized it, and now there's illegal fire pits all over the place, and it had to change. But now with that new rule in there, it seems to be getting better, right? It was the people had spoke, but I think backing off on it is not going to be helpful. There's certainly more dogs, there's certainly more people. The beaches get more and more congested, and every additional summer we have more and more to do, right? And we don't always expand lifeguards to effectively do all that stuff.
I'll give you one last question from the board.
Actually, Chief, no question, comment, but it's really not for the chief, sorry, Chief.
That's okay.
But it's, when we have a motion, so I'm thinking to hold off when there's a motion, right? It's a general comments. Should I do it now or later?
We'll do it later.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Any other questions from the board for our chief? One question, all right?
I just want to ask, do you see like a increase in dog bites as like the summer is approaching?
You know, it would only be anecdotal. I didn't pull any of that. I know we get a PRA for dog citations, dog interactions every year. I think it's the Voice of San Diego does it, and those I look at those citations, they're about the same, and those are rangers, PD, and lifeguards. But as far as dog bites, it would be anecdotal, so I wouldn't really want to speak to it. And I think animal control, you know, now that they have a contract with the city, they're probably the folks that carry that data. We see them, we see the dog bites, and you know, we see them. Certainly, we treat the medical injuries from a dog bite, but I don't have the data in front of me. Sorry.
All right, well, we're not done with this discussion, but we will let our chief off the hot seat, so let's thank you for coming. Okay, so before the board will discuss how the board wants to proceed, we will allow the public to give a few comments. We will restrict it to 1 minute. But we'll just do fire at the end. So if you are a community member that wants to speak on this item,